Welcome on board Mr. and Mrs. to Ether Sky Airways. The moment the flight attendant said those words, his eyes flew wide open. His body went stiff. His confidence vanished. The mistress noticed. "Do you know her?" He stuttered. Before he could lie his way out, the flight attendant calmly said, "I'm his wife." And just like that, the entire aircraft went silent. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps this channel grow. Now let's begin. Ethan Caldwell had mastered the art of appearing like a devoted husband. From the outside, his life looked polished and effortless. He lived in a sleek glass penthouse overlooking the city skyline, drove a midnight black Range Rover, and ran a consulting firm that catered to wealthy clients and corporate investors. People often said he had built the kind of life most men dreamed about. At home, his wife Olivia believed the same thing. Olivia Caldwell was disciplined, graceful, and kind. Her job as a flight attendant meant she was away often, but she still managed to keep their home warm and welcoming whenever she returned from work. Even after 6 years of marriage, she still greeted Ethan with the same gentle smile whenever he walked through the door. That morning looked ordinary. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows as Olivia stood in the kitchen wearing a crisp white blouse and navy skirt, packing her flight bag. Ethan walked in, adjusting the cuff of his designer shirt. Olivia glanced up. "You're leaving early today." Ethan nodded casually, pouring himself coffee. "Busy day at the office." She studied him for a moment before speaking again. "You've been traveling a lot lately." He shrugged with practiced ease. "Consulting life." Olivia sighed lightly, not suspicious, just tired. "I might be traveling soon too," Ethan added, sounding almost distracted. Olivia paused. Smoothly, like "Where someone
to?"
mentioning the
Abuja.
weather. "Investors meeting. Very important people." Olivia nodded slowly. "When?" Ethan pretended to think. "Not sure yet. Soon though." Olivia smiled gently. "Well, good luck with it." Ethan leaned over and kissed her cheek. "Thanks." It was a perfect lie. Because there was no investors meeting, no business trip, and definitely no Abuja. What Ethan had planned instead was a week of luxury, indulgence, and secrecy. A vacation that Olivia was never supposed to find out about. But fate had already started rewriting his plans. Vanessa Blake loved expensive things. She loved luxury handbags, rooftop restaurants, designer perfume, and hotels where the lobbies smelled like fresh orchids and polished marble. And Ethan Caldwell loved giving those things to her. Vanessa was everything Olivia was not. Where Olivia was calm and thoughtful, Vanessa was exciting and bold. She laughed loudly, dressed like a model, and never pretended to care about anything that didn't sparkle. They met in a private members' lounge nearly a year ago. What started as harmless flirting turned into something far more dangerous. Now Vanessa sat across from Ethan in a quiet cafe, scrolling through pictures of beachfront resorts on her phone. "This one," she said, turning the screen toward him. The photo showed a luxury suite overlooking turquoise water. Ethan leaned closer. "That's the one I booked." Vanessa's eyes widened with delight. "You're serious?" "First-class flights. Oceanfront suite. 7 days." Vanessa leaned across the table and kissed him quickly. "You spoil me." Ethan smiled, enjoying the admiration. "Only the best." She lowered her voice playfully. "And your wife?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "She thinks I'm traveling for business." Vanessa laughed. "To Abuja?" "Exactly." She shook her head. "That's actually evil." Ethan shrugged. "She won't question it." Vanessa leaned back, satisfied. "When do we leave?" Ethan slid 2 boarding passes across the table. Vanessa looked down at them. Her smile widened slowly. "Destination, Dubai. Departure, Friday morning. Luxury. Privacy. Freedom." Everything was perfectly arranged. Neither of them had the slightest idea that someone very familiar would be standing just a few feet away when they boarded that flight. Across the city, Olivia Caldwell was having the best morning of her career. The airline headquarters buzzed with quiet activity as crew members moved between offices and briefing rooms. Olivia sat at a long glass table reviewing documents when her supervisor approached. Olivia. She looked up immediately. Yes, ma'am. The supervisor smiled. You've been selected for international routes. For a moment, Olivia thought she had misheard. I'm sorry, international? Her supervisor nodded. You've earned it. Your performance reviews have been excellent. Olivia felt a rush of excitement. For 6 years, she had flown only domestic routes. Lagos to Abuja. Lagos to Port Harcourt. Lagos to Accra. But international flights were different. They meant better pay, better hotels, longer layovers, and far more prestige within the airline. Her supervisor handed her a folder. Your first assignment is this weekend. Olivia opened the document. Her eyes widened. Dubai? Congratulations. Olivia laughed softly, still processing the news. Thank you so much. This flight will be important, the supervisor continued. We expect premium passengers and first-class travelers. Olivia nodded confidently. I'll be ready. Later that afternoon, she sat alone in the crew lounge staring at the flight details again. Lagos to Dubai. Friday morning. She thought about telling Ethan immediately. But then she smiled. Maybe she would surprise him instead. After all, he would be traveling soon too. To Abuja for his mysterious investors meeting. She imagined telling him about her promotion when he returned. His reaction. His pride. What Olivia didn't realize was that she would see her husband much sooner than she expected. And not under the circumstances she imagined. Friday morning arrived with the kind of energy that filled international airports. Business travelers rushed through terminals with rolling luggage. Families gathered around departure boards. Luxury cars pulled up to the entrance one after another. Ethan Caldwell stepped out of a black SUV wearing dark sunglasses and a tailored navy suit. Vanessa followed behind him wearing a sleek white dress and oversized designer shades. They looked like a glamorous couple ready for a luxury getaway. A porter carried their matching luggage toward the entrance. Vanessa slipped her arm through Ethan's. I love airports, she said. Why? Because they always lead somewhere expensive. Ethan laughed. They moved smoothly through the priority check-in counter. First class. No lines. No delays. Soon they were sitting inside the private lounge sipping champagne. Vanessa glanced around at the polished marble floors and leather chairs. You really went all out. Ethan leaned back comfortably. You deserve it. She smiled mischievously. Your wife definitely doesn't get this treatment. Ethan shrugged casually. She prefers simple things. Vanessa smirked. Well, I don't. Soon the boarding announcement echoed softly through the lounge. Passengers for Flight 247 to Dubai, boarding will begin shortly. Vanessa stood immediately. Let's go. They walked toward the gate with effortless confidence. Their passports are ready. Their boarding passes were scanned. Everything felt smooth and perfect. Until Ethan looked ahead toward the aircraft entrance. And saw something that made his chest tighten instantly. Standing at the door of the plane was Olivia. Olivia stood at the aircraft entrance in her elegant Navy International uniform. Her hair was neatly styled, her posture confident, and her welcoming smile warm as she greeted passengers stepping on board. To most people, she was simply another professional flight attendant. But to Ethan Caldwell, she was the last person on Earth he expected to see. His steps slowed immediately. Vanessa noticed. What's wrong? Ethan stared ahead, his face losing color. My wife. Vanessa blinked. What? He lowered his voice sharply. My wife works on this flight. Vanessa turned toward the entrance carefully. Which one? Ethan nodded subtly. The one greeting passengers. Vanessa's expression shifted from curiosity to panic. You're joking. She never flies international, Ethan whispered. Vanessa folded her arms nervously. Well, she clearly does now. Passengers continued moving forward in the boarding line. The distance between them and the aircraft door grew shorter. Ethan's heart pounded. Maybe she wouldn't notice. Maybe they could slip past. Maybe. Then Olivia looked up. Their eyes met. For the smallest fraction of a second, time seemed to freeze. Her smile paused. Her eyes widened slightly. Recognition. Shock. Understanding. Then, just as quickly, the professional expression returned. She greeted the passenger in front of Ethan with perfect composure. Vanessa squeezed his arm tightly. Does she know? Ethan swallowed. Yes. Now they stood only one step away from the aircraft door. Olivia turned toward them calmly. Her voice warm, professional, controlled. Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Welcome aboard. The moment hung in the air like a silent explosion. Ethan stood frozen at the aircraft door while passengers behind him continued to shuffle forward impatiently. Vanessa tightened her grip on his arm, her perfectly polished nails pressing into the fabric of his suit jacket. Olivia's expression remained calm and professionally pleasant, the kind of smile that flight attendants mastered after years of training. To any other passenger, she looked perfectly normal. But Ethan knew her too well. He could see the tiny tension in her eyes, the faint stiffness in her shoulders. She had seen everything. Her gaze moved briefly from Ethan to Vanessa and then back again. The observation was quick but thorough. Olivia's mind had always been sharp. Vanessa tried to maintain composure, lifting her chin slightly as though she truly belonged there beside Ethan. Olivia stepped aside gracefully, allowing them to pass through the entrance. Her voice remained smooth and controlled as she gestured toward the first-class cabin. She wished them a pleasant flight with the same calm tone she used for every other passenger. Ethan barely managed a nod as he walked past her. For a brief moment their shoulders were close enough to touch. Neither of them spoke. But the silence between them said everything. Vanessa exhaled slowly once they stepped into the cabin. That was intense. Ethan didn't answer. His mind was racing. He had expected anger, shock, maybe even confrontation. Instead, Olivia had responded with perfect professionalism. That frightened him more than anything. Behind them, Olivia continued welcoming passengers with effortless grace, as though she had not just watched her husband board an international flight with another woman. The first-class cabin glowed with soft lighting and polished luxury. Wide leather seats stretched in neat rows. Soft instrumental music floated through hidden speakers while passengers settled into their spaces. Ethan sank into his seat, but the comfort of first class suddenly felt meaningless. Vanessa glanced around nervously. You think she'll say something? Ethan rubbed his temple slowly. She won't cause a scene. Vanessa lowered her voice. She definitely recognized you. Yes. And me. Ethan nodded quietly. Vanessa leaned back, clearly unsettled now. I thought you said she only flew local routes. She did. Then why is she here? Ethan had no answer. Across the cabin, Olivia moved gracefully between passengers, helping someone place a carry-on bag in the overhead compartment. Her composure remained flawless. If anyone had observed her closely, they might have noticed the faint tightness around her eyes. But most people were too busy getting comfortable for their long flight. Vanessa turned toward Ethan again. This is bad. He stared straight ahead. Relax. How can I relax? Your wife is literally working this flight. Ethan finally turned toward her. She's a professional. She won't embarrass herself. Vanessa crossed her arms. That's not what I'm worried about. Ethan followed her gaze toward the aisle. Olivia had just entered the first-class section. Her posture remained confident. Her smile was warm. But her eyes briefly passed over Ethan and Vanessa like a quiet storm rolling through the cabin. Then she continued forward as if they were complete strangers. Vanessa shifted in her seat uneasily. Your wife is terrifying. Ethan swallowed. For the first time since boarding the plane, he began to realize something unsettling. Olivia wasn't reacting. She was observing. The aircraft doors closed with a soft mechanical thud. Soon the engines hummed to life as the plane began its slow movement away from the terminal. Passengers buckled their seatbelts while flight attendants prepared for departure procedures. Olivia stood near the front of the cabin delivering safety instructions alongside the rest of the crew. Her voice remained calm and precise, every movement practiced and graceful. Ethan tried not to look at her, but his eyes kept drifting back. Vanessa leaned toward him again. She's acting like nothing happened. That's her job. The plane lifted into the sky, climbing steadily above the city until the buildings below looked like tiny blocks. Once the seatbelt signs switched off, the cabin crew began their service. Olivia pushed a polished service cart into the first-class section. Her movements were steady and controlled. She stopped beside the first passenger and offered drinks with her usual professional warmth. Then she moved down the aisle. Closer. Closer. Vanessa's posture stiffened. Ethan's pulse quickened. Finally, Olivia reached their seats. Her expression remained neutral and polite. She asked Ethan if he would like champagne or wine. Her tone carried the same calm professionalism she used with every other passenger. Ethan struggled to respond normally. He declined the drink quietly. Vanessa ordered champagne with a bright smile, trying to appear unaffected. Olivia poured the drink carefully. Then she leaned slightly closer to Ethan. Her voice dropped just enough that only he could hear. She hoped the investors' meeting in Abuja would be successful. The words were soft, controlled, but they struck Ethan like a hammer. Olivia straightened immediately and continued down the aisle as though nothing unusual had happened. Vanessa watched her go. Well, that sounded personal. Ethan stared ahead silently, because he understood something Vanessa did not. Olivia had just confirmed that she knew everything. As the flight continued across the sky, the atmosphere inside the first-class cabin slowly relaxed for most passengers. People reclined their seats, ordered meals, and watched movies on large personal screens. But Ethan and Vanessa sat in growing tension. Vanessa barely touched her champagne. She definitely knows. Ethan exhaled slowly. She suspects. No, Vanessa replied firmly. She knows. He remained quiet. Vanessa leaned closer. You should talk to her. That would make it worse. So what's the plan then? Ethan rubbed his hands together nervously. We finish the flight. That's it? Yes. Vanessa shook her head. You're underestimating your wife. Ethan glanced toward the galley where Olivia stood speaking quietly with another crew member. She won't create drama on a plane. Vanessa crossed her legs impatiently. I'm not worried about the plane. What do you mean? Vanessa looked directly at him. I'm worried about what happens after. Ethan tried to dismiss the thought, but the idea settled heavily in his mind. Across the cabin, Olivia glanced toward them briefly before continuing her duties. Her face remained calm, composed, professional. Vanessa followed Ethan's gaze. She looks way too calm. Ethan whispered quietly. That's exactly what worries me. Hours passed as the aircraft cruised steadily above the clouds. Dinner service arrived in elegant courses. Plates of gourmet meals appeared on polished trays while passengers enjoyed the luxury of long-haul travel. But Ethan barely tasted his food. Vanessa picked at her meal without enthusiasm. This vacation already feels cursed, she muttered. Ethan forced a small laugh. It's just one awkward moment. Vanessa looked at him skeptically. One awkward moment? Your wife literally caught us boarding a plane together. Ethan leaned back in his seat. She still hasn't confronted us. Vanessa shook her head slowly. That's because she doesn't need to. At that moment, Olivia entered the cabin again to check on passengers. She moved gracefully down the aisle, asking if anyone needed anything. When she reached Ethan's row, she paused briefly. Her expression remained polite. She asked if everything was comfortable. Vanessa nodded quickly. Ethan managed a quiet response. Olivia thanked them calmly and continued forward. Vanessa leaned toward Ethan again. That woman is planning something. Ethan watched Olivia disappear behind the curtain separating the cabins. A strange feeling settled in his chest. He had spent years believing he understood his wife completely. But tonight he realized something unsettling. He had never truly seen Olivia angry. And now he was witnessing something far more dangerous. A woman who had already made a decision. The aircraft finally touched down in Dubai just as the evening lights began glowing across the city. Passengers applauded softly as the wheels rolled along the runway before the plane slowly taxied toward the terminal. For most travelers, the long flight was over. Vacation, business deals, and luxury experiences waited beyond the airport doors. But for Olivia Caldwell, the real journey had just begun. Inside the cabin, she maintained her calm professionalism while assisting passengers preparing to disembark. Her uniform remained immaculate, her voice polite and steady as she thanked travelers for choosing the airline. Ethan and Vanessa stayed seated until the aisle cleared slightly. Vanessa looked uneasy. "Do we leave now?" Ethan nodded slowly, though his confidence had faded hours ago. As they walked toward the exit, Olivia stood near the door once again, greeting passengers as they stepped out. When Ethan approached, their eyes met briefly. No anger. No shouting. Just a quiet understanding. She thanked him politely for flying with them and wished him a pleasant stay in Dubai. Vanessa walked beside him silently, refusing to make eye contact with Olivia. Within seconds they were gone. Olivia continued smiling until the last passenger exited the aircraft. Then the cabin doors closed. The smile faded. Her colleagues chatted casually as they completed post-flight duties, but Olivia remained unusually quiet. One of the other attendants noticed. "Long flight." Olivia nodded gently. "Yes, just tired." After finishing the paperwork and clearing the cabin, the crew was transported to their hotel. Once inside her room, Olivia placed her flight bag neatly on the table and sat down on the edge of the bed. The silence felt heavy. She took out her phone. There was a moment of hesitation. Then she dialed a number she had saved months ago but never expected to use. The line connected. A calm professional voice answered. "Good evening." Olivia spoke steadily. Her name was Olivia Caldwell, and she needed to begin divorce proceedings immediately. The lawyer paused slightly, surprised by the directness. "What happened?" Olivia looked out the window at the glowing Dubai skyline. Her voice remained calm. She had just served champagne to her husband while he traveled with another woman. Meanwhile, Ethan tried desperately to pretend nothing had changed. Dubai was everything Vanessa had imagined. Luxury cars, towering skyscrapers, glittering shopping malls, and beach resorts that looked like scenes from a movie. Their hotel suite overlooked the ocean, with glass walls that revealed an endless view of blue water and golden sand. Vanessa dropped her luggage onto the bed. "This place is insane." Ethan forced a smile. "Worth the trip." She walked out onto the balcony and admired the view. Imagine waking up to this every day. But when she turned around, Ethan was standing silently near the window, staring at his phone. "You're thinking about her." Ethan didn't deny it. "She hasn't called." Vanessa folded her arms. "Maybe she's waiting." "For what?" "For you to come home." Ethan shook his head. She would have said something already. Vanessa sat on the edge of the bed. Women don't react the way men expect. He sighed quietly. "She's probably embarrassed." Vanessa laughed softly. "Or she's planning something." Ethan walked toward the minibar and poured himself a drink. "Relax. She won't destroy her own reputation." Vanessa watched him carefully. "You're very confident about that." Later that evening they went to a luxury restaurant overlooking the marina. The food was exquisite. The atmosphere is glamorous. But the tension between them remained. Vanessa checked her phone. Repeatedly. "You're sure she hasn't messaged you?" "No. That's not normal." Ethan tried to focus on the meal, but Vanessa's words kept echoing in his mind. Across the world, Olivia was not crying. She was not angry. She was not even thinking about confrontation. Instead, she was calmly putting an end to a marriage she had quietly realized was already over. A week passed quickly. Luxury dinners, private beaches, shopping trips. From the outside, Ethan and Vanessa looked like a couple enjoying the perfect vacation. But beneath the surface, a quiet anxiety followed Ethan everywhere. Olivia never called, never texted, never confronted him. Vanessa noticed it constantly. That silence is dangerous. Ethan finally grew tired of hearing it. "You're imagining things." But even he knew something felt wrong. When the vacation ended, they boarded the return flight to Lagos. This time Olivia was not part of the crew. The journey felt strangely empty without her presence. When Ethan arrived back in the city, he drove directly to the penthouse. The familiar building stood exactly as he left it. Quiet, elegant, normal. But something immediately felt different. When he stepped out of the elevator and approached the front door, he noticed an envelope taped neatly to the center of it. His name was written clearly across the front. Ethan frowned slightly and pulled it free. The envelope felt thick, heavy. Inside were several official documents. As he opened them, his stomach tightened instantly. Legal papers. Stamped. Filed. Divorce documents. He stood frozen in the hallway, reading every page slowly. Each word felt heavier than the last. The marriage was officially being dissolved. Olivia Caldwell had already begun the legal process. Without confrontation. Without argument. Without even speaking to him. Ethan pushed open the door and stepped inside the penthouse. The silence inside felt unsettling. At first, everything looked normal. But as he walked further into the living room, the changes became obvious. Several shelves were empty. The decorative frames that once held photos of their travels were gone. Olivia's favorite reading chair near the window had disappeared. He moved quickly toward the bedroom. Half the closet stood empty. Her clothes were gone. Her shoes. Her luggage. Everything. The only object left behind sat quietly on the kitchen counter. Her wedding ring. Next to it lay a small folded note. Ethan opened it slowly. The message was simple. He should have gone to Abuja. Ethan sat down heavily in the chair beside the counter, staring at the ring for a long time. Vanessa's voice echoed in his mind. She had warned him. Olivia had not reacted emotionally. She had simply moved on. Everything had been planned during that single flight. Every calm smile. Every professional gesture. Behind that quiet composure, Olivia had already made the decision that ended their marriage. Months later, Ethan was sitting in the back seat of a taxi stuck in city traffic. Life looks very different now. The penthouse felt empty. Vanessa had eventually grown tired of the tension surrounding his divorce and disappeared from his life just as quickly as she entered it. Work had become the only distraction left. As the taxi stopped at a red light, Ethan glanced absent-mindedly at a large digital billboard towering above the street. Then he froze. The image on the screen showed a confident woman standing inside an airplane cabin, wearing a redesigned international uniform. Olivia. Her smile looked brighter than ever.